It's time for America Outdoors Radio, the show that covers the outdoor scene across the U.S. of A. and the entire continent. Fishing, hunting, conservation, outdoor recreation, and great destinations. We cover it all every week. It's your country, your outdoors. Let's explore it together with your host, John Cruz.
Is there going to be legal grizzly bear hunting in the lower 48 this year? If so, it would be the first time in decades, and it follows the removal of the grizzly bear in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem from the endangered species list after their population recently reached some 700 animals. Wyoming is taking public comment on a proposal that would allow 24 grizzly bear tags to be issued this fall. Idaho is taking a much more conservative approach, suggesting a season in which only one tag for a male grizzly would be available statewide. And the state of Montana, which also has the option of hunting, has decided to sit out this party, at least for this year, to see how things play out with their Rocky Mountain neighbors. Detractors, as you might imagine, are eye-popping mad about the prospect of grizzlies being hunted, and lawsuits are likely being filed by the dozen as we speak. On the other hand, others are thrilled at the conservation success story that has unfolded with the recovery of the grizzly bear, and being able to hunt them, even on a limited basis, is worth celebration. We'll let you know whether these hunts become a reality in 2018 or if they just remain a pipe dream. As we start off our Easter weekend broadcast, I'd like to welcome aboard some new listeners who live in grizzly bear country, Bozeman, Montana to be exact, though those who root for or attend Montana State University there would tell you they prefer the Bobcats to the Grizzlies, which is the mascot for that other university in Montana located in Missoula. We're now airing on Talk Radio 1090 KBOZ out of Bozeman, and would like to thank Ed Donahue there for bringing us on board Sunday morning so we could share the outdoors with you on a weekly basis in a town known for great trout fishing streams and as the home for outdoors companies like Simms and Sitka Gear. We're also bidding a fond farewell this weekend to our longtime affiliate, KUIK AM 1360 out of Hillsboro, which airs both of our outdoors shows throughout the Portland area. They've been sold, and their news talk format, which includes us, will cease at the end of the weekend. On the bright side, though, we've found a new home in the Rose City. Starting next weekend, we'll be on AM 1640 The Patriot, and you can tune into this show at 6 a.m. and to our regional show, Northwestern Outdoors, at 7 a.m. We are really glad we're still airing in a town full of salmon, steelhead, and trout fishermen because, believe it or not, we're the only radio show covering these topics there these days. Hard to believe, but true. This week on America Outdoors Radio, it being Easter, rabbits are an animal that probably come to mind, and that's part of the twisted reason we've got that very well-known outdoors chef, Hank Shaw, joining us to tell us about his latest book, Pheasant, Quail, Cottontail, which has more than a few rabbit recipes in it, and we're going to ask him about those. April also marks the beginning of turkey hunting season in many states, and Troy Rodakowski, an outdoors writer and turkey hunting addict, will join us to give you some tips on how to bag a gobbler this spring. We've got outdoors news about who the new world elk calling champion is, and a story about a man who cried wolf multiple times, no less, and he did it to the United States Coast Guard. As you might imagine, this character will be walking our trail of shame this week as he calls out, "Mayday, mayday, mayday." Finally, we mention Idaho and bears, but if you're heading to the Gem State for business or pleasure, be sure to bring your trout rod because they have a very active trout stocking program, and we're going to tell you more about it right now. Next on America Outdoors Radio, if your travels take you to the state of Idaho, there's some fishing to be done, especially now that spring is here and the waters are slowly starting to warm up. With us here to tell you more about where you might want to go fishing during the spring or during this spring break is Roger Phillips with Idaho Fish and Game. Roger, always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Great to be here, John. Always nice to talk to you.
So let's run through a few places you would suggest people go to where they can have some fun fishing this spring or during the spring break without a whole lot of effort to do so.
Well, we've got a lot of these small community ponds in Idaho, and especially at the lower elevations, it just doesn't many warm, sunny days to get those things up and running and warm enough for those fish to get active. And we stock those real generously. And some that come to mind, we've got some up in the Panhandle area, and Lewiston area is real low elevation. It's got some really, nice ponds in the area right there in practically downtown Lewiston, right down there by the river. And then as you move down to southwest Idaho, similar situation. You've got a lot of community ponds that are at low elevations, and these things could be in the middle of a city park, or, they might be a little bit off the beaten path, but at the same time, they're a really cool opportunity because you don't have to burn a half a tank of gas to get to them. You can throw a rod in the truck and you can in minutes, and if the weather turns, you turn around and go home, and you don't have to worry about it, and you come back on a different sunny afternoon.
I like it. So I don't usually ask people to name names, but you are the public information specialist for Idaho Fish and Game. Let's name some names for some of these waters we're talking about here.
Oh, I'd be more than happy to. We've got the Kiwanis Park Pond, which is in Lewiston, and it's right Snake River too, so you can cast a lure or something and try and catch a trout out of there, but you've also got the Snake River right there if you want to try your hand for some early season smallmouth. We've got Wilson Springs Pond in Nampa, which has the really nice advantage of being right across the street from a hatchery, so we stock that one pretty heavily. And along those same lines, our Hagerman WMA down in the Magic Valley, we have our big trout hatchery there, and there's a whole bunch of ponds on that WMA, which is a wildlife management area. So we own that one, and we keep those things really well stocked, and sometimes with some big fish, and just gives people the opportunity to get out and do some early season fishing and probably catch some fish.
Roger, Idaho has a really strong trout hatchery production program. As a matter of fact, in some of those ponds and lakes in the greater Boise area, it seems like you're stocking year-round almost.
Pretty much, yeah. There's the only times that we don't stock, things freeze over, or if we have really hot weather in the summers that just makes those things too warm for the fish to do well and get caught. But, right here, in Boise, I can drive probably within 20 minutes any time of year and find some kind of water that's suitable for trout fishing.
Here's another question for you. How popular are these places? When you and I were growing up, there was kids like us all over the place down there with a rod and some lures or a can of worms. These days, are there a lot of folks, young and old, out there with power bait and lures too?
Oh, you bet. And that's what's really gratifying about this is because, we had those opportunities when we grew up, and too many of us moved to the cities. We kind of lose that opportunity for the generation, and that's something as an agency we've really focused on, is creating these local fishing opportunities so kids can still jump on their bikes with a fishing rod and go down and catch a couple of trout, and then when they decide they want to branch out and do something bigger, they have those basic skills to go out and catch fish wherever they end up.
Last but not least, if people want an idea of when these stockings are taking place, they can find out right off your website, can't they?
Absolutely. We have a stocking page that tells exactly where we've stocked, and also if they're just looking for an individual water, we have our fish planner. They can go to that page, they can type in the name of that pond, and it will tell them all the times that's been stocked in the last couple of years.
Well, there you go, folks. If you are traveling to Idaho, bring your fishing rod and bring a few lures, especially trout lures, because there's a good chance you'll be able to get away from that business meeting. Or maybe if you've got the kids and you're heading to a city for spring break, again, take them fishing. They'll love you for it. Roger, thanks for sharing this with us today on America Outdoors Radio.
You're welcome. Anytime, John.
There's a place where the fishing is year-round, where the sun shines 300 days a year. The wineries and breweries are right downtown. The hiking and cycling offer spectacular views you just don't get in the big cities. Fortunately, the place is real and vibrant. It's the Dalles, Oregon, just 90 short minutes from Portland, along the gorgeous Columbia River, where the adventures are limited only by your imagination. Find out more at explorethedalles.com.
I'd like to welcome a new sponsor to our show. It's Sportsman's Cove Lodge, and many anglers who have been there will tell you it really is Alaska's best lodge. Sportsman's Cove Lodge sits on a salmon highway full of kings and silvers. There's halibut too, and there are some really big ones. Finally, with decades of experience taking care of customers, Sportsman's Cove Lodge knows how to treat you right from start to finish. Ready to book your trip of a lifetime? Then call Sportsman's Cove Lodge at 800-962-7889. That's 800-962-7889. 800-962-7889 for Sportsman's Cove Lodge.
If you consider yourself a hardcore fisherman who takes pride in being the first person on the water and the last one off, Fish Fighter products were designed for you. We make products for the relentless fishermen who know that big fish are caught by those who put in the work. With our Relentless Series tackle trays, rocket launcher rod racks, and breakaway river anchors, you'll spend more time chasing the fish, not your gear. Designed and built right here in the USA, Fish Fighter products won't let you down. Gear up at fishfighterproducts.com.
Ty Stubblefield here from Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, reminding you of our 7th annual North American Rendezvous, April 12th through the 14th in Boise, Idaho. Join us and special guests Randy Newberg, Ryan Callahan, Remy Warren, and Stephen Ranella for an event-filled weekend featuring backcountry seminars, our beers, bands, and public lands brew fest, and the world-famous storytelling night. All going on at the Boise Center, April 12th through the 14th. Get your tickets at backcountryhunters.org.
You're back with America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. It is time to talk turkey, folks. That's right. Turkey hunting season is upon us, and we thought we'd talk to outdoors writer Troy Rodakowski. He has been hunting gobblers for 23 years. Troy, welcome to the show.
Hey, John, it's great to be on again.
Well, it's great to have you again. And when it comes to turkey hunting, you're one of my go-to guys because you've been doing it for so long and you're so passionate about it. And you're not the only one. Turkey hunting, it seems to me, turkey populations both have done quite well in the U.S. in recent years, or is that just a misperception on my part?
No, actually, that's the thing about turkeys. They are a pretty prolific bird, and with all the enhancement projects that through the NWTF and other conservation organizations, they have been expanding throughout the U.S., the Midwest, the South, and especially out here in the Northwest. So, yeah, turkey populations are doing really well, and we've had, a fairly mild winter across a good portion of the U.S., so that's done nothing but help the populations as well.
Well, some of our friends in Montana would be disagreeing with you this morning about that mild winter, and some of our other friends in the Northeast as well who have been just hammered by storms. But despite that, like you said, in a good portion of the country, turkey populations have definitely been on the increase. Now, you live out in the Northwest. Oregon's your home state, and you just wrote an article for Northwest Sportsman magazine about where to go turkey hunting in Washington, in Oregon. What are some of the hot spots out there this year?
Well, if you're looking for, public land hunting, most of the eastern portions of the state are going to hold birds, especially in the mountainous regions and around the agricultural lands, like, for example, the Northeast Oregon, the Blue Mountains, anywhere down towards John Day, the Eagle Caps, the lower portions of the Eagle Caps, and then the eastern Washington around Colville, and all the mountains over there in the eastern portion of Washington and the lower reaches hold a lot of birds for public hunting, but that if you want a public land bird, you're going to have to look to National Forest, BLM, and that's where a lot of those birds are going to be found, and scouting is really important. If you want to hunt on the west side, it's mainly a private land game, and you're going to have to contact landowners and obtain permission.
So when it comes to private land, there's a part of Western Oregon that probably has more turkeys than anywhere in the Northwest. Where is that?
Well, that would be Douglas County, and that's where the ODFW actually does a lot of their transplants from Douglas County. They actually call it the turkey capital of Oregon. There's so many turkey per square mile down there, and there's a lot of issues with private property, and turkeys become nuisances. So the ODFW does a lot of trapping and relocating into the central and eastern portions of Oregon, and that's where a lot of those birds over on that side of the state actually originated, was Douglas County in the southwest part of Oregon.
Well, that is good to know. And one other thing I think most listeners don't know about is the variety of species available in the Northwest. What different species can a turkey hunter find?
Well, mainly in Oregon, there was a small population of Merriam's turkeys in the eastern part of the state of Oregon, but the Rios have basically, they didn't really take, and that, kind of that transition happened during the 1980s, and so the Rios started taking over. So mainly in Oregon, it's mostly Rio Grandes, and there's some small populations of Rio, Merriam hybrids. Washington State has all three species. It actually has eastern Merriam and Rios, but unfortunately, the eastern turkey it's a very small population on the west side, and they're very tough to hunt. Idaho's got a small population of Merriams and Rios as well.
So, Troy, let's go ahead and talk tactics here, and let's talk about tactics that are going to work nationwide, anywhere from Georgia and Tennessee and Missouri all the way out to the Northwest where you live. Give our listeners a few tips on things to do and things not to do to bag a gobbler. We'll start off with things to do.
Well, obviously, scouting is really important, and if you can find where there has been birds and where you've seen birds, you're going to want to focus on those areas, and those areas tend to be places where they're finding good feed and forage. And what you're going to want to do is figure out where possibly they're roosting, and if you can find a roost site, you can concentrate on that area, because they will roost in a lot of the same trees if they're not disturbed. And then of course you're going to want to concentrate on calling and other tactics, and maybe put out a decoy. And you kind of figure out the temperature of the birds and how vocal they are, and you kind of want to mimic that. You don't want to overcall. You want to figure out how much they're talking and how talkative they are, and try to just become part of that.
Let's talk about decoys. Any suggestions?
There's several out there on the market, and there's so many good decoys compared to what decoys used to be 15 to 20 years ago. So many of the decoys now look realistic, and that's a bonus for the hunter. And there's obviously several companies out there that make great decoys. They have breeding hens, they have gobblers that their fans will move, and it's just like I said, you have to figure out what stage of the turkey rut the birds are in before you decide which decoy you really want to use. And that's really important. I think a lot of hunters mistakenly will use a decoy when they don't need to, or use the wrong decoy. And that's an issue, I think, with a lot of turkey hunters.
Really? So are you saying the wrong decoy season-wide, or are we talking just the wrong decoy at the wrong time of the season?
Wrong decoy at the wrong time, and a lot of times, I've even had birds that have been decoyed so hard that they're so shy to even come in, even though you might sound really good, and you might be having a good conversation with a bird, and you've got a gobbler fired up, and he gets into your setup, and he sees that, and it just doesn't look right. So he's like, I'm out of here, and he won't come in. He'll hang up, or I've had them pop their heads up and just turn and leave. And so you gotta, like I said, you gotta figure out, if you're hunting public land, a lot of those birds are going to be pressured. If you're on private land, you're probably going to have a little bit more success with that decoy, because those birds aren't going to be used to being harassed by decoys, and they might commit.
So is there one particular decoy that you would suggest that might lure them in that maybe they don't see that often?
I like the newer ones, honestly. And a Jake decoy with a hen seems to me to be the one that will actually get a gobbler to go, I'm going to come there, because he doesn't want that young Jake around that hen. He wants that hen. So I've had so much luck with that. And, with the new breeding hens, if you put a breeding hen out there with like a Jake decoy, and that gobbler sees that young bird with that hen, or you could even throw another gobbler out there. They're very aggressive and very, very territorial when it comes to that. So those tend to be the ones that I like to use the most when I use a decoy.
All right. Well, we are running out of time, but Troy, I think we might have to have you back on again this season. Maybe talk a little bit about turkey calling and even get some demonstrations. But until then, folks, if you want to check out what Troy's got, just pick up the latest copy of Northwest Sportsman magazine. Do you have any other turkey articles out there people ought to know about?
I'm going to have another one in the April issue and also another one in the May issue. So it's kind of a series. We're going to do early season tactics and tips, and then April will be like the mid-season, and then the May issue we're going to have late season tips, tactics, and what to do and what not to do. So, yeah, keep an eye out for those.
That's Troy Rodakowski, folks. He's talking turkey, and he wants to help you do the same. Thanks, Troy.
Hey, thanks for having me, John. I appreciate it.
I'd like to welcome a new sponsor to our show. It's Sportsman's Cove Lodge, and many anglers who have been there will tell you it really is Alaska's best lodge. Sportsman's Cove Lodge sits on a salmon highway full of kings and silvers. There's halibut too, and there are some really big ones. Finally, with decades of experience taking care of customers, Sportsman's Cove Lodge knows how to treat you right from start to finish. Ready to book your trip of a lifetime? Then call Sportsman's Cove Lodge at 800-962-7889. That's 800-962-7889. 800-962-7889 for Sportsman's Cove Lodge.
Backcountry Hunters and Anglers' 7th Annual Rendezvous is coming to Boise, Idaho. Join fellow sportsmen and women from across North America for an event-filled weekend at the Boise Center, April 12th through the 14th. For tickets, go to backcountryhunters.org.
If you consider yourself a hardcore fisherman who takes pride in being the first person on the water and the last one off, Fish Fighter products are designed and built for you right here in the USA. Fish Fighter products are used by the top fishing guides in the Northwest because they know having the right equipment is imperative to a successful fishing trip. With our Relentless Series tackle trays, rocket launcher rod racks, and breakaway river anchors, Fish Fighter products makes the gear you can count on. Find out more at fishfighterproducts.com.
Welcome back to America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. It's Easter weekend, and I thought that would be the perfect time to introduce you to our next guest. His name is Hank Shaw. He's got a brand new book out called Pheasant, Quail, Cottontail. Hank, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on again, John.
Number one, I love your books. And number two, I think you're about as good of a title writer as any of them. After all, you've come up with such gems as Duck, Duck, Goose and Buck, Buck, Moose. And now another rhyming one, Pheasant, Quail, Cottontail. But once you open up the hardcover book, it's chock full of information. The photography is great, which is really, really hard to do when it comes to food. And, you know, like I said, the recipes are just fantastic. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about what they're going to find inside your brand new book here?
This is my 4th book overall, and it's my 3rd deep dive into wild game. And this one covers absolutely everything upland bird and small game. So it's not just pheasant, quail, and cottontail. It's turkeys and grouse and squirrels and jackrabbits and all kinds of things. Basically, if you can hunt it in North America, it's in here. I even have a couple of 2, 3, 6 recipes for fur bearers because a bunch of my friends who are trappers are like, well, why not put some fur bearer stuff in there? So I'm like, all right, I will. And it's the biggest book. There's the most recipes in it, the most full color photographs. We're just super proud of the way it looks and the way it came out.
Well, as you should be, folks. This is an absolutely beautiful book and a great addition to your kitchen, too. And like you said, you cover a whole bunch more than just pheasant, quail, and cottontail. The squirrel recipes caught my eye, and I guess I've got to ask you another question here. When it comes to these recipes, are these animals you harvest yourself and you basically do trial and error and come up with the recipes, or are you, pardon the horrible pun, poaching some of these recipes from other people you know and getting their permission to share them in the book?
No, every single one of these is my recipe. Now, that said, I've got a recipe for buttermilk fried rabbit, which that's a pretty common recipe that you'll see all over the South. But it's my version of buttermilk fried rabbit. So I've adapted some classics. I have taken some recipes that are very, very common in other countries. So I have a few curries and things like that are very, very common in, say, East Africa or India or Southeast Asia, and I've adapted them for wild game. And then some of them are just right out of my own forehead. So I mean, you've got everything from truly unique recipes to American and international classics.
Let's talk a little bit more about rabbit. After all, it is Easter. Peter Rabbit is kind of top of mind awareness. And this is a book, after all, that does cover Cottontail recipes. I've eaten rabbit twice in my life. The first time was in a mess hall with the U.S. Army, and you can imagine what that tasted like. It was the blandest, most boring meat dish I'd ever eaten in my life. The second time was on a very special date to the nicest restaurant in town with my wife, and I had a fricassee and rabbit, and it was so rich, I mean so rich, that to me, it wasn't edible. I actually took it home, fed it to my golden retriever, who enjoyed it, I think, a lot more than I did. Tell me that rabbit tastes better than my experiences that I just had.
That's a weird pair of experiences, although I can tell you that your first experience is probably more accurate than the second. The second was just probably a French chef just going overboard. But most rabbit recipes view rabbit as a blank slate, because it kind of is. And I don't know, a lot of people listening to this don't know, but back in the 40s, rabbit was the white meat that we would go to.
Really?
And chicken didn't win until they had this contest called Chicken of Tomorrow. And that's when they finally bred out what they call a double-breasted Cornish cross. And then that chicken had a bigger expanse of boneless white meat than a rabbit did. So rabbits are a little harder to butcher than chickens, and they don't have that big swath of breast meat. So they lost out. But 80 years ago, it was a rabbit that you put in your pot on a Thursday and not a chicken. So we have a lot of history eating rabbits in this country, and a lot of the original chicken recipes, like cacciatore, if you think about it. Cacciatore is often done with just rabbit, because cacciatore means hunter. It's a hunter stew in Italian. So the two tricks with cooking rabbits, whether they're store-bought or wild, by the way, and when I say rabbits, I mean cottontails, is if you get young ones, they are an excellent choice to chicken fry. And you use your best fried chicken recipe. I've got one in the book. And if you get a bigger rabbit or an older rabbit, then they are ideal for a slow braise. And there are really beautiful rabbit recipes with any kind of flavor combination you want. And that's one of the cool things about cottontails or domesticated rabbits, is that they can be so versatile in the kitchen.
You're listening to America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. We're talking to Hank Shaw about his new book, Pheasant, Quail, Cottontail, and about rabbit and rabbit recipes. Sticking with rabbit and sticking with this whole Easter theme, a question for you. When it comes to cleaning rabbits, I've always read in the regulations, and folks, I've never hunted rabbit before, but I've always read you have to be careful because they can carry some sort of disease, and that would be bad for you if you got it. And that's all I know, and that's literally all it's taken to keep me from being a rabbit hunter. Tell our listeners more about this and how to prevent it.
Rabbits in general, both jackrabbits and cottontails, can carry a menagerie of parasites. Most of them you don't have to care about because some are icky, you just cut them out, or they're in the gut cavity, so you don't eat them anyway. But there is one that you have to care about, and that one's called tularemia. It's named after Tulare County in California. But ironically, even though that's where the disease was first discovered, it is infinitesimally rare to find a rabbit infected with this disease wherever you can hear this radio broadcast. The only place where there's a pretty significant chance of seeing it is in Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas area. And you can see it, and the liver will look like it has flukes in it or flecks, or the liver will just look weird. So even though the chances of finding one, I've never found one. I've shot lots and lots and lots of rabbit. I've never seen one. I will just carry in my pocket a set of nitrile gloves. And at the end of the hunt, when I'm cleaning rabbits, I'll just put those gloves on. And they're actually the only animals I'll wear gloves to butcher are hogs and rabbits. And I've seen hogs with problems. I've never seen a rabbit with tularemia.
All right. So for all of our listeners out there, except for those of you listening on KLID out of Poplar Bluff, Missouri, you're probably okay, but great advice about cleaning rabbits and keeping yourself safe from tularemia. We, unfortunately, are out of time, which is regretful for me because I've really enjoyed this conversation. But where can folks find pheasant, quail, cottontail to bring into their kitchen and start using for some great upland bird and small game recipes?
I am happy to say that it's literally available wherever fine books are sold. So you can get it on Amazon, you can get it on Barnes & Noble, you can get it in any of your bookstores in town. So it's as widely available as any book you can imagine.
And I understand that you're going to be making an appearance at the Backcountry Hunters and Anglers Rendezvous in Boise, April 12th through the 14th. What's that all about?
So I'm actually going to be in Boise the night before for a public event at the Payette Brewery. So Payette Brewery is just kind of it's a drop-in. Just come on by on Wednesday the 11th, and then the weekend after that, I will be with the Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, and I'll be cooking for a fundraiser dinner they're doing. I'll be judging a wild game contest, and generally be there saying hi to everybody, and I'll have books available as well.
And I'm guessing you'll be willing to autograph those books too.
You betcha.
Well, Hank, I'm looking forward to seeing you at the Backcountry Hunter and Anglers Rendezvous in Boise. And folks, if you find yourself in that neck of the woods, stop by the Payette Brewery or stop by the Rendezvous, buy your tickets. That's going to be a lot of fun. And even if you can't, be sure to pick up this book. Again, it's Pheasant, Quail, Cottontail, another great effort by Hank Shaw that's full of recipes you're going to love from game that you find in the wild. Hank, thanks as always. We appreciate hearing from you on America Outdoors Radio.
Thanks for having me.
Are you ready for your best of the West affordable summer vacation? Hello, I'm Mark Hemstreet, owner of Shiloh Inns. Many of the big hotel chains will have hidden extra fees for things like parking, internet, so-called resort fees, and lots more. The list is as long as it is sneaky. But at Shiloh Inns and Suites Hotels, there are no hidden fees. Shiloh amenities are all free, like Shiloh's spacious pools and spas, steam and sauna rooms, fully equipped fitness centers, and even the kids stay free. And don't forget that Shiloh Inns also provide a free continental or full hot delicious breakfast at most Shiloh Inns. Now that's affordable excellence. For reservations, call 1-800-222-2244 or visit our website at shilohins.com. Smoke-free and dog-friendly Shiloh Inns, American family-owned and proud of it.
There's a place where the fishing is year-round, where the sun shines 300 days a year. The wineries and breweries are right downtown. The hiking and cycling offer spectacular views you just don't get in the big cities. Fortunately, the place is real and vibrant. It's the Dalles, Oregon, just 90 short minutes from Portland, along the gorgeous Columbia River, where the adventures are limited only by your imagination. Find out more at explorethedalles.com.
If you consider yourself a hardcore fisherman who takes pride in being the first person on the water and the last one off, Fish Fighter products are designed and built for you right here in the USA. Fish Fighter products are used by the top fishing guides in the Northwest because they know having the right equipment is imperative to a successful fishing trip. With our Relentless Series tackle trays, rocket launcher rod racks, and breakaway river anchors, Fish Fighter products makes the gear you can count on. Find out more at fishfighterproducts.com.
I'd like to welcome a new sponsor to our show. It's Sportsman's Cove Lodge, and many anglers who have been there will tell you it really is Alaska's best lodge. Sportsman's Cove Lodge sits on a salmon highway full of kings and silvers. There's halibut too, and there are some really big ones. Finally, with decades of experience taking care of customers, Sportsman's Cove Lodge knows how to treat you right from start to finish. Ready to book your trip of a lifetime? Then call Sportsman's Cove Lodge at 800-962-7889. That's 800-962-7889. 800-962-7889 for Sportsman's Cove Lodge.
Backcountry Hunters and Anglers' 7th Annual Rendezvous is coming to Boise, Idaho. Join fellow sportsmen and women from across North America for an event-filled weekend at the Boise Center, April 12th through the 14th. For tickets, go to backcountryhunters.org.
You're back with America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. It's time for some outdoors news brought to you by Fish Fighter Products, that innovative company based in Mountain Home, Idaho, that makes your life on the water easier, especially if you're an angler. One of their products is their Quick Mount. It allows you to change out that anchor nest and put on a bow-mounted Minn-Kota trolling motor in a matter of seconds. Find out more at fishfighterproducts.com. We've got the results from the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation's World Elk Calling Championship that took place in Salt Lake City. This year's winner, Corey Jacobson of Donnelly, Idaho, who's a 9-time title winner. This year's competition featured 105 callers, the most ever, and featured one-on-one matchups in a bracketed format with $14,000 in cash split between the winners of the 6 divisions. The winners of those divisions are Corey Jacobson of the Professional Division, Matt Toyne from Plain City, Utah won the Men's Division, Marissa Pagano from Rexburg, Idaho took first place in the Women's Division, and Hannah Holliday from North Glen, Colorado won the Voice Division. 2 family members dominated the youth divisions. Jacob Simber from Tooele, Utah won the youth division, and Isaac Simper from the same location won the Pee Wee division. Congratulations, and if any of you are listening today and give free lessons, please contact me. I can use all sorts of help.
It's time for the Trail of Shame.
Shame, shame on you. Shame, shame on you.
Stories of poachers, scoundrels, and other ne'er-do-wells, so if you see someone committing a criminal act on the water or in the field, turn them in. It's the right thing to do.
If you're the Coast Guard and you hear this come across the radio,
Mayday, mayday, mayday,
you spring into action. And that's exactly what the Coast Guard along the northern Oregon and southern Washington coast did in 2016 when they heard this exact message and others like it on multiple occasions. Unfortunately, the Mayday you just heard, courtesy of the Coast Guard, and 39 others made between April and December of 2016 were all hoaxes, and they were all likely made by the same imposter. That person, according to multiple media reports, is 35-year-old Bud O'Neill Berkelio, who was arrested and charged in a 5-count federal court indictment for crimes related to making these hoax radio calls. If convicted, Berkelio is facing a potential prison sentence of up to 6 years, $255,000 in fines, and reimbursement for Coast Guard operating costs. Now that would be a real reason for Berkelio to get on the radio and say,
mayday, mayday, mayday.
And if he is indeed convicted of these crimes, he can say them while he's walking, or should I say foundering, along our trail of shame.
Shame on you.
It is Easter weekend, and resurrection is a theme of both the holiday and our next interview. With us next on America Outdoors Radio is Matt Amos. He is a Marine. He is part of Wounded Warrior Outdoors, and he is the host and a producer of a brand new show you've got to see, and it's available on YouTube. It's called Adventures Enabled TV. Matt, welcome to the show.
Hey, appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Matt, this show, which is produced in partnership with Wounded Warrior Outdoors, you're doing something really special here. Why don't you tell our listeners what Adventures Enabled TV is all about?
Yeah, so, we came up with the idea for this show, simply to motivate and inspire, those warriors that, have been out of the military for a while, because we're not seeing as many wounded coming back to the hospital. So we're trying to just motivate and inspire those people and try to get them reconnected into some sort of passion, whether that's hunting and fishing or just being outside. But, the outdoors is where therapy takes place. And so we created this show to kind of highlight outdoors as a therapy, and then also highlight Wounded Warrior Outdoors to show those warriors what opportunities are out there for them.
Well, something you did with the first episode, Matt, got another wounded warrior named Kirsty Ennis. You took an adventure that is truly an extreme adventure, and I'm guessing you did this to highlight that no matter what your injuries are, you can do more than you think. Why don't you tell our listeners about this sheep hunt?
The sheep hunt was actually, donated to Kirsty through one of our sponsors, which is the Wild Sheep Foundation. And one of the members of the Wild Sheep Foundation saw Kirsty's story and said, I want to give you this sheep hunt, which, for anybody that understands and knows about sheep hunting knows that that's a once-in-a-lifetime type of deal. And, doing it on one leg, it's difficult enough to do it with two, but doing it on one leg, just adds an extreme level of difficulty and danger, as you see in the first episode where she almost tumbled 150 feet off a cliff. But, it's really just managing that 6 inches between your ears. That's where everything comes from. Your body will be able to do whatever you want it to do. It's just the matter of getting your mind in the frame to push your body to those limits.
And Matt, you're absolutely right. A sheep hunt is not an easy thing, no matter who you are. But Kirsty's story, here she is, a Marine Corps helicopter gunner, and her helicopter crashes in Afghanistan, and her left leg is amputated below the knee, and then things get worse. It's amputated above the knee, and she nearly dies. And not too long afterward, she's gotten this sheep hunt, and she's trying to do this. And you really detail how hard this is for Kirsty to do this. Very well done on this first episode.
Yeah, we appreciate it. She's a very determined and strong-willed person. And, she's very good at managing that 6 inches between her ears. And then she's also, just incredibly in shape, which helps as well. So again, that goes back to, we're actually working with a gentleman right now, and his name's JD, and he will be in a future episode, but he's a bilateral above knee amputee and above the elbow amputee on his right side. So here we have a triple amputee that had the same situation happen where he was donated a sheep hunt in the same area that Kirsty's in right now. On that episode, and he's going to go back in 2020 and attempt to do that sheep hunt as well.
Wow. Well, Kirsty's first episode is on YouTube now, and it goes to a certain point where there's an opportunity, but there's clearly more to come. How many episodes are going to follow Kirsty's sheep hunt in Alaska?
The first episode, we kind of left everybody with the cliffhanger. Two reasons. One, because we want to keep the online episodes short so that everybody can watch them and not be distracted and spend too much time on it. And then following that, I think we've got probably 8 more episodes following that with other warriors who are doing incredible things and using, the outdoors as the catalyst for what they're able to do. So the show itself, while it has a hunting base, it's not 100% about hunting. We want to show, and this was between, Kirsty and I and a lot of the other warriors, is there's a perception out there that, because we've been to Afghanistan or Iraq, or, we've been deployed to these combat zones, that somehow, and after being injured, that somehow we're damaged goods, or, we all suffer from PTSD, and we're just, we're not maybe effective members of society is too harsh, but we want to show everybody out there that our warriors aren't broken, that we are out doing good things for our communities, in the community. A lot of us are starting businesses, and, we're not just sitting at home, collecting disability. We're out there pursuing goals and chasing dreams.
Well, Matt, at least what I've seen so far, you are showing that, and you're showing it very well. Again, folks, it's Adventures Enabled TV. What's the channel on YouTube, and why don't you give out the website one more time, too?
Yeah, it's adventuresenabled.tv. So that's the website. And then we've got Adventures Enabled on Facebook and Instagram. You can click the link on Facebook, and that'll take you to the YouTube channel. And the YouTube channel is Adventures Enabled as well.
All right, Adventures Enabled, that's your stop on social media. If you want to go straight to the website, adventuresenabled.tv, make sure you check this out. You will get a new appreciation for our wounded warriors and how tough and how resilient they truly are and how they're using the outdoors for therapy along the way. Matt, thanks for documenting this with your show and sharing this with us today on America Outdoors Radio.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
I don't know about you, but after hearing that story, I am inspired. We've got to wrap things up, but if you're looking for other ways to listen to our show, you can catch us online Saturday mornings at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on talkradio.us. It's the new voice of conservative talk radio. We're proud to be part of their lineup every week. You can also hear us on a couple of apps. One of them is YouTube. Our channel is Northwestern Outdoors. That's one word. Or subscribe to America Outdoors Radio on Podbean, download the app, and in both places, you can hear both of our shows. Don't forget our website too, AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com, and you can always find us on Facebook at America Outdoors Radio, where we tend to post things that don't necessarily make it onto the show. I hope the Easter weekend is a wonderful one for you, and keep in mind, the real reason for this holiday. It's not about rabbits or chocolate or eggs. It's all about Jesus Christ, who died for our sins and rose again. Here's hoping your Easter Sunday is a blessed one and that you find yourself on the water, in the field, or in the woods in the week ahead. Remember, it is your country and your outdoors.